Hello, it is Simbala again. Hello, everyone. um, so I'm here to continue my story. And just to introduce myself again, my name is Simbala. I'm here to talk about my awakening into spirituality or my spiritual awakening. And this is part 4 of my story as I continue to re- retell the events of this time of my life. Um, and before getting back into it, I wanted to first explain like, what I believe a spiritual awakening even is. Like, it's such a vague concept, that that is you hear about it a lot, like spirituality and spiritual people and spiritual awakening and chakras and third eye consciousness and all these different things in the quote unquote conscious community. But I will share what I believe to be a spiritual awakening before I go any further. And to put it in the simplest form, I find it to be the becoming aware of oneself. And there's so many layers to who we are as people beyond just our surface day-to-day lives and beyond our trauma and beyond our hurt and our pain, um, even our joy and just whatever. We have so much depth within us that we're not awakened to because we're distracted by so many other things. So those periods of in my life pulled me away from substances like drinking and the partying and all of that, and gave me a different focus in life. So um, and that focus was to self-analyze. I was I was forced by circumstances beyond my control to face myself and my actions and to philosophize as to why everything, why do I do the things that I do, why do I act the way that I act, and at this point in time, some people with resources would take the opportunity to go see a therapist, but my concern with therapy at the time was that I didn't understand how someone could tell me who I am and how I am without leveling with me and kind of like letting me know who they are. So it's like that trust thing. So there's a huge distrust. And probably, now that I think about it, I had a hard time trusting anybody to tap into me without me doing it first. So it's like, I don't want to be read by someone, especially someone I don't know. So therapy, and then the cost of therapy too, so there's that aspect. So I was forced into this space to self-analyze alone, with no assistance, no tools, no terminology to figure out what I was going through, what was happening. So it was a rough ride. It was not easy, to say the least. Um, so, yeah, to summarize, what I believe to be the spiritual awakening is discovering oneself, and through a lens that is not so superficial and so surface. Like I said, not the day-to-day going to school and I'm going to work and I'm striving for a superficial reality that has been projected upon me that I think is the norm and the, social standard. So I'm doing, it's like we follow these courses and these paths that we have no idea that they have nothing to do with us. And then, we find ourselves absolutely miserable and we have no idea why, and lost and confused and distraught, just completely, so we turn to substances or food or, whatever kind of habit to distract us, exercising, playing video games, getting into, just whatever. Like, there's balance in all of this. Like, there's a degree where it's like, entertainment or satisfaction to the point of where you're doing it to distract yourselves or to avoid asking those questions to self. Like, am I living the life that I want to be living? Like, why do I feel so down? Or why am I continuing habits that are pushing people away? Or why can't I form healthy romantic relationships? Or, like, these questions are so important. And so during this time that we have all, whether you're with your family or your children or by yourself, it's time to to just reflect and to self-analyze whether you want to or not. And through that self-analyzation, I was able to discover something beyond what I could see and beyond what is tangible in our, in this perception that we're fed in this reality, like the idea of God or a higher power is, to many religious people and spiritual, beyond religious, it's not a difficult concept to grasp, but for many it's and that's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, spirituality is realizing ourself, what our life force is connected to something so great and so beyond our human comprehension. And there are ways that we can tap into that energy and have a better comprehension of it. But in order to do that, we have to follow a certain path that is led by not our head, but our hearts. So, on that note, let me continue my story. So, I had to sleep in my friend's car that night. I was terrified by what I experienced. I didn't know what had tried to overtake my body. I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel it physically. I could only feel it energetically. So it's like, what the heck? And how do you explain that to anyone? And like I said, luckily my friends, my roommates they themselves had spiritual experiences, and so they could empathize with me and not consider me crazy or irrational and send me to a hospital or whatever. So the next day, so I slept in the car. I probably slept for like 4 or 5 hours. I don't even know. I'm surprised I even fell asleep to even feel safe to sleep in a car in a city. But I did. I felt safer in the car than I did in the house. I felt like an energetic force field around the house. Like I couldn't even get in. It's like I couldn't get past the force field. And I also didn't want to. Like I felt like if I pushed past it, something really bad was going to happen. So I was like, can't do it. I'm in my pajamas, sleeping in the car at my in my friend's car across the street. So that's what I did. And the next day I got up and I went back to the apartment, and I just, you could just feel a thickness in the air, like very, very thick. Like it was very strange, very, very eerie. And it was still very uncomfortable. I didn't feel good being there, but I had to go to school. I had to just do what I needed to do. So I got my things together. I attempted to go into my room, and it felt even thicker, the energy. Like, I believe I didn't even go into my room that day because it's like I wasn't allowed to go in there. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to go in my room today. And I began looking up like different methods that I could use to clear the energy. So at this point, I'm thinking like, I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what to name it. I don't know what to call it. Maybe there's spirits, maybe there's ghosts, maybe it's an entity, like I'm only basing my knowledge from horror films, that's all that's the only reference I have for these kinds of experiences. And let me remind you that during this time I was working overnight shifts and I was depressed. I had depressed from this breakup, and I've had to learn over the years that it wasn't actually this man that I was depressed over. It was the revelation that I had no sense of self. And at the time, it felt like it was this heartbreak that was crushing me so much. But what it really was the realization that I don't know who I am. I don't know, I don't have a core. There's nothing in there. There's nothing there. Like, I felt the void. And it just, the greater the void grew, the more the experiences would happen in the house. So I would try these different techniques. I think I put salt outside of the door. There's like all of these kind of different shamanic rituals are everything but Christian exorcism. I mean, not everything. Who am I to say that? There's so many different methods to ward away negative energy, and I was just trying to think of stuff off the top of my head, look up stuff, just whatever I could find. And it was very interesting at the time because my roommate as well, so I wasn't the only one having these strange experiences, but as far as like something trying to take over my body, I was the only one in the house having that. There were my housemate, he was having nightmares. He was an insomniac, but when he would finally go to sleep, he would have very dark dreams, and very strange things would happen, like the burner in the kitchen would just turn on by itself, or a shadow would, go over the light or go past the light. And there was actually one night that I had a really creepy dream, and it wasn't a dream. It was or I thought it wasn't a dream. It was very real, and but scary. It was almost like it was a lucid dream, and in my dream, I believe I had an interaction with my housemate and some force or some energy, and then when I woke up, it's like I had a hard time distinguishing whether it was a dream or not. Like it was, and I went to talk to him about it, and he had a similar dream, and that was, I mean, and he had seen an image of a woman, and this wasn't in my dream, but this was in his dream. So it's like I could feel the energy, and he saw it in his dream. He saw it, the physical form of whatever it was, and he saw it as like this woman bent over with like claws, like in the corner, in like in a dark corner in our apartment. And so I'm just thinking, my thoughts are that we moved into an apartment that something funky happened here. There's some residual energy, some trapped energy in this space, and we're experiencing it. And so that we were just trying to analyze what was going on. But we, all three of us in the house, could feel the energy and perceive it in a way that's not visually or physically, but by things, happening that we can't explain. So even though I was not getting much sleep, I was not the only one experiencing these strange things in this place. And as I said, I thought it was cursed. I had a very strange landlady. She was a very old lady, and she always wore all red. And she, she always had she was just kind of a slumlord. She didn't really take care of business. And but I always thought, like, that woman, like, I just had a weird feeling about her, and it's probably a silly perception of mine, but I just thought that she cursed the place or something. I kind of had a beef with her, because she wasn't fixing things that we needed fixed and stuff like that. So yeah, I had thoughts that she was behind that, or that something had happened in the apartment. That was a thought that we had, was that maybe someone was killed in there, or there was like a murder-suicide in there. Like, the energy was unreal. I mean, after that first experience and having to sleep in the car, like, I was like, I can't live here anymore. We gotta move. Like, we gotta leave. But it's just like, again, recession, living in a city in San Diego is not cheap. Where are we gonna go? So it was like, at that point, I realized, like, I gotta make peace with this energy. Like, I gotta figure out how we're gonna coexist, because I can't leave. So that's when I started doing all these things. I remember calling my dad, who has ties and connections in African spirituality, and he called on a priestess friend to kind of read my energy and see what it was that was tormenting me, tormenting our household. And what his friend told him was that whatever she's being tormented by is not an outside force. It's something from her. Like, it's her. And I just felt so he told me that, he relayed that to me, and I just felt I was like kind of offended, or I don't want to say offended, just kind of like, I felt like she didn't take the time to really read whatever was going on with me. I felt like she just kind of brushed it over, because it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't like a clear enough answer as to what I was experiencing, especially because my other housemates were experiencing it too. So I just felt kind of left still like, what is going on, you know? So, I had another night where I was trying to go to sleep before having to do a night shift, and it happened again. I tried to lay down, and I feel this energy coming over me. Um, and I'm just walking, walking around the house, like I could feel it, but I'm just trying to like breathe deep and just try to push it off of me, like basically say out loud whatever this is, like, you are not welcome in my space, like stay away from me. And this time I was scared, but I wasn't as scared as the first time because it's like, okay, it's back, like whatever this is. And I could see the energy like moving around the house, almost as if it was like if you've ever seen a heat wave, like it looked like that, but I could see it moving around the house. It was crazy, absolutely nuts, completely nuts. Um, so that was another experience. I got through it better that time. I asked my friend if I could just sleep in the bed with her that night, and then she had her boyfriend at the time, or boyfriend, now husband. She had her husband sleep in the living room, so I could just sleep in there with her. And something about her energy is very protected, very pure, very angelic, and there are just some people in this world that I realized at that time that are protected, and she is that pure soul, and nothing would mess with me when I was in her presence. So that night I slept in her bed and went off to work, and I will tell you the rest in the next video. Thank you for watching part 4.